Hi everybody, welcome to our very first group critique. I'll be holding a group critique every week throughout the 5.5 weeks, so we'll have a total of, I believe, 6 critiques, maybe 7, depending upon the assignments in week 5. 6 for sure. And I typically do the critiques the day after the assignment is due for the character. So it's really a good idea to aim to get your work in by the deadline, especially for the caricature project, so that you can be involved in the group critique. If you're not able to submit by the deadline, I'll post feedback if I'm in the classroom after the group critique. Typically, I usually am one more day, and I'll post you some text feedback, which is going to be helpful. But as you probably can understand, it's really good to be part of this group critique. So the first assignment that we've already been completed, most students have completed that already, was the Photoshop exercise, the classroom in a book exercise that we did. And that assignment through the submission Dropbox, and I provide text feedback in the comments. And if you look at the announcements board right now, you'll see I have some tips on how to view that feedback, and then you're going to take that feedback and you're going to revise and submit into the final submission area by the end of the week. So the same thing with this feedback, but instead of the comments area, it's through this group critique. Okay, so I think that's all I wanted to say about the group critique. Okay, yeah, let's move on to talking about the character project. So the character project is, over the whole entire class. Every week we're going to be doing a new version of it. And so this is where we're doing the sketches part, where you're generating ideas. So let's say you chose Garbage Dump Dan, for example. You'll have 4 different sketches showing different ways that you came up with of creating Garbage Dump Dan using objects. And then so next week what you're going to be doing is choosing photographs for your character, for all the different parts. So whatever parts you have listed in your chosen sketch, you're going to choose photographs to go along with that. And that's for next week. Let's see. So the most important thing here is that you've got 4 different ideas for your character. Let's say, again, Garbage Dump Dan, 4 different sketches. And you're going to choose one of those sketches for next week. Now, I would just want to say that throughout this class, this is a very organic class in terms of making changes. So let's say you choose one of your sketches and you decide, hey, I want to make some changes to that sketch, or maybe I want to combine some sketches. Like I like the legs of sketch 2 and I like the head of sketch 1, or the whatever I'm developing. That's really okay to do. So just keep thinking it's all about creating a really great character by the very end. And so you're going to, make changes throughout. So again, the sketches may change and from the original idea, and that's just fine. And so the purpose of this sketch is to just really be creative with the sketch and have a lot of different ideas, because typically as designers, if someone says, hey, just give me one idea, we do that, but typically we like to do more than that, because oftentimes the first sketch is maybe a little bit rigid, or it's not very creative. So the more the ideas you generate, typically the more creative you get through that process. And that's typically why we as designers like to have more than one thumbnail or one comp of a design. It's just because it gets those juices going when you don't, when you have a bunch of different ideas to develop, you go, oh, what the heck, I'll just try this and see what happens. So you tend to be a little bit more flexible with your ideas. Okay, so I think that's it. So we're going to look at the sketches now, taking a look at them. And the main thing that I'm looking for is just that every object every part of your character is built out of an object. That's really the most important thing at this phase, because that is what you're going to be using with photographs. So next week you need to have photographs of objects, like something that a camera took, and so the sketches need to reflect that. As I mentioned in my notes here, drawing doesn't really matter so much. about your drawing skills. Just is it clearly communicated? That's really, everybody has a different drawing style. It doesn't have to be realistic to be a good communicator. So don't worry so much. I know in other classes we actually do study drawing, and so the parameters are different, but in this one, whatever you came up with, as long as it's clear and communicates, that's all that matters.
Hi Jennifer. So yeah, you did a good job on your drawings, despite you said you had some issues with your hand. Yeah, I think they turned out well, and I've already taken a quick look through them, and they all, really follow the main criteria very well in terms of having 4 different sketches. Each of the sketches shows a character made out of different types of food, in your case. And every part that you've drawn is made out of an object. So that's great. So I would say that in terms of which one should you go forward with, I would say all of these look really good. I'll give you just a few tips about things that I have noticed that, let's see here. This is really cute with the cupcake. Let's see. This one here, yeah, so this is a cute character. What I have noticed from teaching this class several times in the past is I've noticed that pizza slices, I just had a pizza slice for lunch, they don't tend to work very well for this particular character project, and I think it's just because they're very flat and they have a lot of detail on them, so they tend not to work too well as an object because they just kind of flatten out. So like something that's round, often rounder or more three-dimensional, something like this is really nice. This is great. You know, all these torsos would work. Let's see, this is a pancake body. Yeah, you know, the pancake body, even though it's really flat, it tends to work a little bit better because it doesn't have, like pizza slices tend to have a lot of detail on them, like, you know, pepperoni and all kinds of stuff, and they end up not really reading very clearly. So I would maybe suggest staying away from that. Sometimes also hamburgers sometimes they work, it depends on the photo. Sometimes they also can be a little bit way too detailed, you know, too much going on, so they may not read very clearly. But, you know, sometimes they work really well too. So I would just say, you know, any of your sketches, just with the exception of the pizza slice body, and if you like this sketch for other reasons, of course, you can just put in, you know, something else here, like one of your other ideas for a torso, you know, mix and match things. But don't worry about revising this. I'm just giving you kind of a heads up when we get to the next stage of choosing your sketches, like what can work a little bit better and what doesn't work so well. But I think your sketches all look good, and you know you don't need to make any changes for this assignment for the final submission later this week. Yeah, I think that's it. Good job. Okay, yeah, and one thing I did want to say too, I talked a little bit in my intro about, this is just like a general comment for everybody, I talked a little bit about the reason why we do so many different concept ideas at the beginning is about generating ideas. And what that also means is that not all of your sketches need to be things that you would move forward with. You know, you're just like aiming to get one idea, you know, one potential idea you can work from. I think that's what I wanted to mention. The other thing I wanted to mention, I'll try to remember to say this a few times during my group critique, is that I have, as an instructor, you know, I have a little bit of flexibility over my own criteria for this class. Like in general, it is a class that gets written by course development, and we give feedback and that kind of stuff. But it's sort of, you know, a class that other instructors would teach as well. But for my own objectives for this class, when we get to choosing photographs next week, you're welcome to choose your photographs from really any source you like, whether it's Google Images or stock photo sites. I have some announcements about that. But in general, any source you would like to get, it doesn't have to just be from the AIU library or the AI library. It can be really anywhere you want. Okay, Conrad, so let's see. You are doing, I think you said Terrible Toys Todd. Oh yeah, okay, great. It's a good choice. And see here. Hot dog stick. And it looks like some kind of flame. Bottle. Some kind of bottle. When you're, something to think about as when you draw, I think I really like your sketches. I kind of like the loose look of them. Is just to kind of really aim for clarity in your drawing. It doesn't have to be super realistic, but even just like when you label something, to make the labeling just a little bit bigger, maybe block type, just to make it a little bit easier to view. In fact, I'm actually going to open this, and I'm looking at this in Adobe Bridge right now, but I'm going to open it into Acrobat and see if that might help. It's a little bit better. I always use the shortcut of Adobe Bridge because it's just a little faster to go through files, but yeah. So I would say, so with this one, something I would think about is how can you make this just read a little bit more like a character, in the sense of, something that has like, can walk or move different ways. Like how would maybe the bottle create, how would the character move? Like maybe you would have two bottles, so there would be another bottle with another leg. For the arms, these look like arms. I might choose, maybe instead of two different objects, maybe one the same object, and that will make it read a little bit more like arms. Do you know what I mean? Like the kind of more symmetry in the character. So I might make some changes to that one. The other thing too is, so the face would be made out of objects as well. So in this case, with the fire, I think that's a cool idea, as it being the head, if you can find a photograph like that. I might even just skip the face itself. Oftentimes, you can have an object that reads as a head just of where you place it in terms of the body. And so in your case with this one, I think that, I would probably skip features. So you could just erase those if you like. For this one, oven burner. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, so like in this, like the flames at the bottom might be sort of how it propels itself. That's an interesting idea. And arms. Yeah, this one too, maybe think of symmetry, like having two arms that are the same, like two light bulbs, or I like the light bulb idea. And yeah, overall, I think this is looking good. Again, for the face, I would just, probably skip the face in this one too. Sometimes you can add objects to make a face, like the features of the face. Sometimes I think it's better to, again, in this case, for this particular object, I'd probably just skip it altogether. But if you do want to have a face, make sure to think about what kind of objects you would use to make them, and label that, draw those in. Well, this one definitely has Terrible Toys, Todd kind of feeling for it. Let's see, Weed Eater. Oh, that's great. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think this is great. Same thing here. You want to make sure your face is made out of objects, and I would also, again, work with symmetry. Sometimes students can make different arms and different legs, and it works. But most of the time, it tends to be a little bit, make it look more like a creature. Like what we're trying to do is take a collection of objects and make them, like, fit them together like they are something that can live and breathe, and is recognized as some type of body. It doesn't have to be a human body. It can be like something that crawls or hops or flies. It can be any one of those things. So I might, maybe work a little bit more on the symmetry of this, arms and legs symmetrical, like we talked about previously. Oh, this is a great idea for the feet. I like this. And a bomb with eyes. Yeah, that's great. I love the eyes kind of coming off like this, sort of like lobster eyes. That's a great idea with the fuse. Yeah, it's definitely terrible. Yeah, this is a great, I like this sketch. I would say at this point, this is the one that I think is like most, ready to be a character. Again, I might play with the symmetry of this one as well. Maybe have two guns instead of two different arms. But I like the direction it's going in, and it'll all of your. What I really like about all of your sketches that you really really thought hard about the idea of like the name. Like our company has given us a name for the character, and you've kind of really gone with that and tried to see how you can make each of these sketches terrible, which I think is a really, and people interpret the terrible idea in different ways as well, but to think about how you can really do something with that. So that looks good. So I would make just a few small changes here, and then you'll be ready to go. Yes, I know, cartoonists, that's a whole, it's something that I think is like one of those very focused areas where people spend a lot of time developing their style, not just even how to draw, but the style that they're drawing in. So yeah, a lot of respect for those people. Okay, so yeah, so this is really cute. I love the idea of the mouth as an orange. You've got some really interesting details here. Yeah, that looks really good. Chiclets, and that's a great idea. So, same that I mentioned to Jennifer, I believe, about the pizza. Pizza slices, they're really, I love the triangular shape. They're super cool as kind of objects. But again, I would probably say, avoid them for this particular project. Um, and that's great too. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, nice. And this one too, I would say for this one too, again, sometimes the hamburger works really well. Just kind of think about, it can be a little, challenging dependent. Sometimes, the hamburgers look very like there's so much going on that it's hard to, the mouth gets lost or the eyes get lost. So sometimes you have to kind of just be aware of that as well. But you've got lots of choices here in terms of, really, I love 1 and number 3, I think looks really great. And I certainly love the idea of all of the, like the baguettes or breadsticks here. That could be something you use in another one of the characters. So I think you're also ready to go here, and don't need to make any changes to these sketches. Katie, I'm guessing this is probably Garden Glitter Grace, which she's a great character too. Yeah, these all look great. I love your ideas here for all of the different parts. They look really great. And oh, that's a cute one too with the pineapple head. Yeah. Wow, yeah, these look great. Yeah. So, oh, that's cute too. Yeah, these all look really great. And I love the kind of the way that, you've created the legs in each of these. This one here with kind of making it all like a gown. Um, so something to think about with this character, just as a, again, an FYI for, I think you can choose any one of these sketches, but when you start working with the sketch, and developing it with photographs all the way through the project, you will find I mean, this is true of all the characters, but it's especially true, I think, of Garden Glade of Grace that, you might have decided that, oh, I really want to, like a dahlia petal, and that's what you're aiming for. But then, the dahlia petals you find, they just don't seem to work, or maybe a dahlia petal doesn't really work for that part of it. So be flexible. And if that doesn't somehow work out, you can replace it with something else. Like same thing with the calla lily dress, although I think that'll probably work. But you get the idea that, as long as you're building your concept and thinking about how it would relate to garden, whatever object you choose would relate to Garden Glitter Grace, that be flexible over what the actual thing itself, how it fits in, and if it doesn't work, feel free to substitute. Okay, yeah, you're also ready to just uh, submit these to the final submission area. Um, you don't need to make any changes with this. Okay, so this looks like one of the Flippin' Foods, one of the Flippin' Food characters, either Fran or I think it's Fred is the other one. Um, yeah, it looks good, very nice. You've got all the different parts, nicely labeled. I love the idea of the hot tub body. It kind of looks like the character's sort of wearing some kind of like a costume, or the buns on the side. Um, yeah, this one looks really good too. Nice. And just my feedback to previous folks using a hamburger, that hamburgers can be tricky. Sometimes they work, sometimes not. I love the pickle arms. I think that's really nice. Ooh, the waffle. Is this a waffle? French toast. Oh yeah, that would be great, wouldn't it? This to me looks like a whole kind of dessert character made out of all the things you get, um, you know, for breakfast, I should say. Not dessert, but yeah, you get the idea. Oh, this one's good too. Cheerios, grits, jelly, stick of butter. Yeah, these look great. Nice job. Um, and yeah, so pick whichever one you want to move forward with. And again, just don't be afraid if you want to mix and match a little bit. You can always make changes to your character, but all of these sketches look good. Okay, garbage dumped on. Yeah, this looks really good. I love this idea of sort of building the body out of like crumpled paper. That could be a really interesting idea. And also the trash bag, um, the nails. Yeah, just kind of things you might sort of find in a dump. That's cute too. So I have, so folks have in the past have tried to do things like with a trash can, and sometimes it works. Sometimes it's a little hard to get it all together and make it look like it's a character. So for this one, I might think about, maybe adding some big feet here. Like you could probably take the wheels away or not have wheels and have something more like if you use this one, something really big at the bottom, feet or some maybe big wheels that it rolls along on, and like really kind of dramatic arms so that you really get that character idea, if that makes sense. Because like when we look at these characters, what makes them look like they're living is that we see things that we recognize as being part of a living body, whether it's like an animal, like a bird or a person or something that's in the ocean, all those kind of recognizable things. So in your case, this looks sort of humanoid, so I'd really just kind of dramatize the arms and legs to make sure that it stands out. Like this one. This one has all of those elements. Yeah, this is cute. Kind of has that sort of like, yeah, broken technology look with all of the different parts here. Broken bed frame, computer. Yeah, that's great. And oh, this one's interesting too. Grocery bag. Yeah, I like this one. Beach balls, baseballs. Yeah, with the pipes and then the saw blade. Yeah, this is a really interesting one. It's sort of got a lot of kind of metal. I can sort of see all the metal tying together. Okay, I think these are all good too, and I think you're ready to go to the next phase. I don't think you need to make any changes to these drawings. Ricardo, let's see. So this looks like, is this garbage dumped down? Maybe we'll see as we go through. Or Terrible Toys Todd, perhaps, or Tanya. Oh yeah, so ugly doll head, that's great. Toy ball and chain. Steamroller with spikes, so it's kind of rolled around on this. Lego, yeah, this looks good. I would say, so something I might change on this one is you sort of maybe choose which one of these objects you might use as arms and just have the same one for both arms and leg, or both arms. And again, just the reason why is it will make it look more, more like a character. Because typically in, uh, living beings like a person, we're relatively symmetrical, and so even though it's fun and creative to have different objects, just on the level of making it, I think, really recognizable will um, will really help. Oh, I like the idea of a slinky down here, so it'll kind of bounce around on a slinky. Maybe it'll hop. A meat cleaver, that's a great idea. Vintage toy robot head. Bubble shooter. Oh, that's a great idea. So you could have kind of bubbles coming out. Again, I would probably just go with one, the cleaver or the bubbles on either side for the arms. One of the interesting things about the Terrible Toys, Tanya or Todd, which is so much of the toys are kind of like almost ready-made heads or torsos, so you can really play with all of those things that are already looking like sort of resembling the things that they are. Yeah, this looks good too. And blades, drills. Maybe just label what the head is. I'm not quite sure what the, let's see if I find neck, baseball bat, hockey stick. Yeah, maybe just label this. Yeah, overall, I think these look good. I would just say, maybe think about symmetry for the characters, just to make sure that they, again, really look like character, have that character quality to them. But yeah, nice job. I think this is going in a really good direction. And I also like what you're doing here too with thinking a little bit about the qualities of maybe um, that would make it, like, especially this one, like a terrible toy. Hi, Melanie. Yeah, sometimes, it's hard to put these together, but yeah, you're right. It's better to just have them posted than not. So, yeah. So let me just go through here. Oops. 1, 2, 3. I was pretty sure you had 4 here. Hold on, let me look for that. So, let's see. Okay, cassette. Yeah, I love the ideas of the eyes naturally being a part of the object. That's often really, I think, the way to work with the head. Sometimes, again, you don't really need to have anything that resembles features, but if you can find something that's already part of an object that hints at, a facial structure, that can work really well. So in your case, like the holes here making the eyes. Yeah, I might work with a little more symmetry with this one as well. I love the cables here. And sometimes what I found is working with, like this, I think would make a really good arm. Sometimes having really super detailed instruments can be a little harder because there's so much detail, they get shrunk down and then they kind of like, you get sort of, the form gets lost. So if you can think of something that would be like a leg that would be simpler, that would tie into the musical idea, like I'm thinking, I don't know, maybe a recorder or a drumstick. Um, what else? Those are the two things that come to mind. Yeah, that I would probably go with that. And like I've mentioned before, instead of having different arms and legs, maybe make them the same. Like the 2 cables could be great. Maybe 2 recorders for legs. That could be really great. Um, and CD for a body, that could work. Um, I love, oh, microphone, that's a good one too. And when you have a drumstick here, yeah, these are good. So again, I would probably just apply the same advice as I had before with the character of just making the arms and legs the same. And for the face, if you're going to use a face, you just want to think about objects that you would use. Um, like you're not, because we're not going to be adding anything to the character in terms of drawings. Like we're not going to draw on it or illustrate it. It's going to be entirely made out of objects. So think about what you might use for a mouth or eyes. If you do need to use something, and if you maybe you reconsider, you could erase them at this point. But you could have eyes that are just made out of maybe just eyes. Maybe you don't need a mouth. So maybe you could think of something round that could sit on top of here. That could be really interesting. Yeah, so this one looks good too. Cassette, yeah, I would maybe, hmm, I like the idea of the cassette here a lot better because it seems to make sense. Maybe not here. Maybe you could move the CD into the torso instead. Um, Something I was thinking, what is round that would have more dimension? And I was thinking of maybe a drum, that's round and has a lot of kind of three-dimensional qualities. That would, I think, would give you more solidity to the body. So that could be something you could work on here. Then maybe think of some feet you could use, or maybe like a lot of like Maybe you could have a big drum for the torso, and then maybe small drums here that you could have at the bottom, and they could be like a little wheels that it rolls along, that just sort of thinking about how it could move. Again, with the eyes, you just want to make sure that the eyes are made out of some kind of object. Um, yeah, I like the idea of the guitar as a torso. That's a great idea. And then, oh, this is great for the legs. That's a nice idea. They look like little drums here. I think there's a name for them. I'm sure you have it written down there. But yeah, that looks good. I might consider, making the arms the same again, just to make it more character-like, and reconsidering the face, how that's going to look with objects. All right, so I would just make a few revisions here um, before you finish up on this assignment. Flippin' food, Fred. Oh yeah, this is great. Nice job here. Like all of the different details you've had here with the broccoli head. Yeah, all of the different qualities. The pizza. This is a great use of the pizza slice. I think that could work really well. Again, when we're working with object photographs, be flexible. Maybe you can't get the pizza to work as feet, and that's okay. But yeah, I really like the imaginative quality of this and all of the details, and how you've been also kind of, which is good to do, is to think about how the object's going to move. Yeah, this one looks great too. I love the kind of the big sort of blobby body. It kind of has a funny quality. It sort of, it has a funny sort of exaggerated quality. Yeah, that looks really good too. This one too. Yeah, that looks really good. I like the churros for the legs, and how they're kind of really tall and then they look like they're kind of like, again, really exaggerated. So a big bodies are bouncing on top, which gives it a very um, interesting quality to it. Yeah, that one's good too. Gumdrop, the cookie. Yeah, all these look great. I like all of them, and I think, feel free to choose whichever one you feel like you want to move ahead with. So it looks like you are maybe doing one of the garden glitters. Did you say that in there? Okay, yeah. So flower head, leaves for bird. So yeah, so for the unfortunately you cannot use any animals or humans for this assignment. I wish you could, but in one way it actually works, I think, a lot better by working with objects. So think about what you could use for the body instead for this one. Something else maybe that could be your body. And same with the deer skull. So I'm going to make an exception here. I'm going to call that an object because it's not alive anymore. I'll make an exception. Typically, again, the reason why we're doing objects is because they are it's more interesting, kind of more creative, a creative leap to turn them into a living, because we're bringing them to life, we're animating these objects, and that's just more interesting than if you take things that that are already animated naturally and use them. Do you know what I mean? It's like a sort of a different assignment. So, yeah. But if you are, if you're going to revise the dog, I might go ahead and revise the head anyhow, just to kind of keep it a little bit more in the project. Yeah, and see, like using a Venus flytrap for the head, that's a great thinking. Like, what could be like a head? That's what we're kind of thinking about. What could be like an arm? I don't know. So I would probably change this one a little bit too. When you have something growing out of a flower pot, it's hard to make it look like it's not just a plant. Because like when we look at it, we'll go, oh, it's a plant. Instead of like, oh, it's a character. So rather than using this whole area as one, what I would do is I would just take the head of the Venus flytrap and then build the body from other parts. Kind of break it apart and do something else, like have something else that's a torso and so forth. Well, I love the idea of a hose. You know, maybe it'll roll around on a hose. Leaf arms, water. The waterfall. So the waterfall. That's also a super cool idea. It's probably in practice going to be a little hard to do, to cut out a waterfall and make it look like an object kind of thing. So you might want to think about something else here for the torso. Googly eyes. That's great. The tulip head. That's great. Um, a bee head, again, you know, we can't use a bee, unfortunately. That'd be so cute. But yeah, think about something else for the head, and also for the legs. But yeah, leaf grapes for the body would be fabulous. Yeah, so you have like a little bit of, you know, things you can change here. You're on the right track. Just keep working on these a little bit more. If you can, when you revise, this is not such a big point in terms of the assignment, but if you can, you know, the directions are to put each of the sketches on one page and then combining them together. And again, you know, it's presentations for this assignment. It's not a really big deal in terms of the grade overall. So if you only have one other additional paper when you revise, you know, it's better to get it done. But if you have more paper, then maybe you want to sketch them out separately and then combine them into a PDF as per the assignment instructions. Okay, I think that might be it. Okay, yeah, that's it, everybody. Nice work, everybody. And look forward to seeing your final submission. Don't forget about when you put it all together for the final submission, which is due on Wednesday, make sure you also include the written questions that are in the final submission area. Let me know if you have any questions.